Welcome to part 6 of our tutorial here. What you should see is with our last part, we added a bunch of enemies and we got those enemies to spawn on screen and fly down the screen towards us. You should already see a problem starting to crop up because the enemies just spawn and then never despawn. They never disappear unless the player were to destroy them later. So if we just keep creating enemies, it might slow down our game eventually. We might end up with problems like that. So what we're going to do is we're going to go fix this. Now go to your map scene, make sure you're in the map scene here. And this makes sense to do in the map scene because our map is actually what's spawning the enemies. So we're going to create an area 2D here. And I'm going to name this remove area. So I'm going to rename this remove area like that. I'm going to add a couple collision shape 2D children of this one here. I'm just going to add one here, and I'm going to make this a shape, new rectangle shape like this. I'll make it a bit bigger. I want it to be taller than the map is here. I'm actually going to make it a bit taller. I'm going to put it off screen a bit just because that way the enemies have a little bit of space here. This is for cleanup. We may at some point want enemies to sort of path off the screen and then come back or something like that. But in this case, this is going to be the easiest way to solve that. We could just delete the enemies when they leave the screen, but as I said, we might want them to leave and come back. I'm going to make this next step a little easy by just duplicating this collision shape 2D and move it over here. Somewhere about this side, doesn't really matter. One thing to note, though, is if I change one of these, it changes the other one as well. So I don't want to do that. What I want to do here is I want to make sure that these are unique. I'm going to go to the shape here. I'm going to click on it and go make unique. So now if I change one of these, I don't change the other one. Okay? It was a reference before. Now they're unique objects. I'm going to duplicate this and put one on the bottom somewhere here. Again, I'm going to make unique. Make it nice and wide here. And have it overlap just a little bit. It doesn't need to be super precise here because it's off screen somewhere, but it should be some space so that the enemies can't sort of clip through them if they're moving too fast. Okay, so there's our remove areas. And what we're going to do from here is we're going to need to make sure that these remove areas only collide with the enemies. So we can use this with collision layers. If we select remove area and go over to collision here, we can click on these three dots beside the layers and choose edit layer names. So player, we're going to make 3 layers here, enemy and borders. Like that. Players, enemies, and borders. This allows us to specify what layer things are on. So, for example, the player can't collide with its own bullets. The player's bullets can collide with the enemies, but not with the player. So we're going to go over here, and with remove area selected, we're going to take it so that it can only detect collisions with layer 2 here. So we're turning off the mask on layer 1 and turning on the mask on layer 2. So it only detects collision with the enemies like that. Okay? We're also going to go back to the enemy here, and we're going to set the collision layers for the enemy. We can do that right on the character body node here for the enemy. It is a character body, so it has collision here. The enemy is on layer 2. We're going to turn off 1 and on 2. The layer means this is what layer the enemy is on. Mask is what it can collide with. The enemy is on layer 2. It can only collide with layer 1. Okay. We're going to go back to the map now. Let's actually save this. Go back to the map, save it as well. And we're going to go to our script here for our map. We're going to connect to the signals from the area. So if I click on the area here, I go to node signals, and what I'm looking for is I'm looking for body entered. Body entered is the signal we're wanting to detect here. So I'm going to double click and just click connect, and it'll make me a new function here. And you can see this function's connected. So what I want to do is I want to make it so that this can only, or so that this removes enemies when they collide with it. Okay. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just do I'm going to do a line here for testing and like debugging purposes. I'm going to do print enemy left, whoopsies, play area and was removed. Like that. What this is doing is this is getting the body here is passed in for what we collided with or what entered this area. And I'm turning that body into a string using this str function, which will give us just a little bit of information. It usually gives us the name of the body or some flag for it. So that's good enough. We're also just going to print out a message so we know what's going on here, because we won't be able to see this because the enemies will be off screen when they get removed. And then we're just going to remove the enemy like this. Body.q free. Q free in Godot means delete it at the next opportunity, technically at the end of the current physics step. If I just say free, it means like free up the memory for this this body. But what I want to do is I want to Q free, so it says wait until the physics calculations are done, now delete it. Otherwise, we have to restart all the physics calculations for this physics tick, and that's really slow. That can sometimes lead to hitching and hiccuping. Alrighty, so if we test our game, watch down here in the output window. Should see it here. Here's my enemies. I can move around. And the enemies pass off screen. And you can see in my output window here, it's removing the enemies. And it's popping me up a string of numbers here telling me about what was removed. I don't actually need to know which enemy is removed. It's just the fact that a enemy was removed. So it's looking good. There we go. You can also see that the enemies can collide with the player. They actually don't collide with themselves, which is good. It would make our game much more complicated if the enemies collided with themselves, with each other. All right, that's the end of part 6 here. Next part, we're going to get to limit the player to the screen.